They can tell pretty quickly when someone has used AI to enhance their resume. Make sure that you are filling yourself with things that bring you joy. Take care of yourself so you can put your best foot forward out there.
Hello. You're tuning into the Careering with Cameron podcast, your safe place to ask all the dumb questions about finding a job. Hey everybody, it is Kevin Cameron with Careering with Cameron, and today I am lucky enough to be joined by Christine Treski from DoubleStar. Christine is the managing director of DoubleStar. I'm excited to have Christine join us today because she's going to bring multiple perspectives that I think are unique to our audience. One being the perspective from our HR listeners in terms of what in the world is going on with recruitment. And the HR side, I think, is kind of getting poked in the eye in terms of like AI and what's happening. The flip side of this is our applicants. So our people that are in career transition or considering a move that are like, hey, this AI thing is out here. I don't know what it's doing, but I also really don't know how the process works in terms of when I get hired. So Christine represents organizations across the country in terms of companies that frankly are smart enough to know when they need help. And they bring in DoubleStar to help out with those resources. It's certainly an organization I'm very familiar with. And you know, I'd love to have Christine share a few words in terms of her background in terms of recruitment right now.
Wonderful. Kevin, thank
Welcome.
you for having me. I have been with DoubleStar for 16 years now, and we're a consulting firm. My job there is to wear many different hats. I joined them as a recruiter and moved into project management. And today I sit on their leadership team, which really means, you know, I help with whatever they need. I help the projects execute successfully. I help hire for the company. I help with strategic direction, all that good stuff. So, I provide a lot of support to our clients. So to your point earlier about that perspective, you know, for people that are doing the hiring, we're in the weeds every day with that.
So let's jump in here. So what are you seeing if we took a snapshot right now of your customer base, right? And on the client side, the recruitment side, what are you hearing most from that customer base?
So, you know, everyone's talking about AI. You know, are we using the right tools? Do we, do we have the right HR tech stack that they're looking for? At the same time, then you have your recruiters and your sourcers and your admins, and they're going, is this new tool going to put me out of a job? Right. So, you know, there's 2 steps forward, 1 step scary. Right. And, I think right now what's happening is that, you know, a lot of the larger companies, so your Fortune 500 companies, I think up to 60% are using some sort of AI tool. And that could be for scheduling. That could be for transcribing the interviews. It could be for actually doing video interviews. So, you know, as a candidate, you may not even realize that you're interacting with an AI tool right away. There's a lot of companies that are using them. I think what we're seeing for the internal teams that are doing the hiring, the recruiters, is that with AI, there's been a really big uptick in candidates, right? So when you post a job, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of candidates, and
At least
they're not necessarily the right fit, right? You've actually got bots out there. For what reason? We don't know, but we've got bots out there putting resumes into the mix. You've got a lot of people using AI, which I think we'll touch on in a little bit with their resume. So you've got a lot of almost generic looking, same sounding resumes to go through. And then you've got your great human beings that are somewhere buried in there that you somehow have to uncover and find. So there's a lot more weight on the recruiter's shoulders right now. They have a lot more applicants to get through, to weed through and get that perfect or that, you know, close to perfect candidate to put in the process.
So it's interesting as a recovering recruiter, as I'll call myself now in coaching. You know, it doesn't seem that long ago that recruiters were hired to help find talent.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that's gone, but it's also interesting that recruiters are now employed to help manage this fire hose of talent that's coming in on postings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I think to your point, you still see both sides of it, right? There's still
Mm-hmm.
niche, hard to find skill sets where you actually do have to go out and source and look and, find additional people to add to your pipeline.
Sure.
But for many jobs, there's just that influx and overflow of applicants right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
recruiters are, you worry about burnout, right? You worry about rec load. You worry about, how are they spending their day? All of a sudden, time to interview is condensed because they're spending so much time reviewing applicants. So
That's a great
it,
point.
it does shift. It shifts
Mm-hmm.
things considerably.
That's a great point. So you hit on this, and I think it's important to call out because there's a whole lot of people who are in search mode that are simply relying on the resume meets the job description in AI and pumps out a new version that they then use to apply.
Right.
And we know there's lots of services that are starting up or have started up where they can upload a resume and that mechanism will just deliver them into these jobs. On the flip side of that, right, from the recruitment perspective,
Yeah.
like what happens when they get those very generic resumes that look very vanilla, they match, we know it's the same type of, like how is that received from the recruitment side?
Well, I think, recruiters, because this is what they're doing all day, every day, right? They're looking at resumes. I think they start to sniff out and they can tell pretty quickly when someone has used AI to, enhance their resume. And it's not that AI shouldn't be used at all, right? Because it can help with your wording. It can help with how to write a phrase to make it sound a little bit more impactful. But when you strictly rely on it, it kind of comes with a formula and they're just plugging in your information into this formula. I think what you could use AI to do is put in a job description, put in your resume, and make sure you have the right keywords in there, right? Use AI to help highlight that. I think that you should be very cautious in adding too many bells and whistles right now. Be true to yourself, talk about your experience, use those keywords so that you can kind of get bumped to the top of the list. I read something really interesting that Greenhouse, for instance, the applicant tracking system, they use something called natural language processing or NPL, right? And so it's literally filtering through resumes and it's bumping the people that have results-based data on their resume versus just responsibility-based data on their resume. So things like that, I think we can use AI to help give us ideas for our resume, but we shouldn't be using it to completely write our resume.
Yeah. It's interesting how fast that industry and science, we'll call it, has evolved from, in 1999, it was literally a DOS prompt on a screen flashing. Not that I would know because I was not even
born at that point,
obviously.
Right?
We heard about it. Yeah. I read it in books. I read it on tablets that I borrowed from my grandparents. But it's interesting that we went from this flashing beacon on a screen, if we had that, it might have even been a phone book, to faxing resumes and all of this stuff where it was very intensive in terms of reading, to trying to kind of convert it to a less reading type of science. And now, as you mentioned, moving into organizations that are talking about revolutionizing the resume process where they want a skill-based resume.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is something that it's not dominant at this point, maybe in some industries in some parts of the country, but we're not seeing it everywhere from what I understand. So can you talk a little bit about is that happening? Are you seeing that?
So, it's interesting because we're trying to keep at the forefront of what's next and what our clients might be looking for next. And so we've done a lot of research on the skill-based hiring and how we would implement that, or help to implement that with a client. We actually haven't been asked to do it yet, though. So we're still seeing your traditional experience, kind of checking the box against the job description. We're still seeing more of that traditional hiring than the skills base that you can apply to different jobs. So Not to say that it's not coming. It's not to say that there's not more industries and companies that will adopt that as our job, the job force changes.
Sure.
But for right now, we haven't really been asked to do too much of that.
So I know this is not a scientific answer because we have not proven any of this out, but what would your hunch be in terms of if we move towards a skill-based resume and we're also focusing more on the individual who's actually writing the resume and not running it through AI, how will that impact that mechanism?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for skills-based hiring to be adopted, it's really going to be job specific, right? Like there's some jobs that you just have to have the experience and you're going to have those years behind you. And, it's not going to be so free flowing as skill-based hiring, right? But I think as we have a lot of, our job force is changing, right? So we've got a lot of people that are retiring. We have a lot of new graduates that are coming in. There's areas and pockets where talent is going to be really tight. We're not going to have the people that have done that for years and years and years. So now we have to identify the people that have those skills that have the aptitude to move into those roles. So here you are, maybe you've been in HR your whole career and all of a sudden you find yourself the victim of a layoff, right? And you're going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? There's not as many HR jobs, especially at the level that I'm at. How do I repurpose myself? I think using AI almost conversationally to talk yourself through it and actually put that into AI. Hey, I am at this point in my career, here's my background. I'm looking to repurpose myself, or I have this interview coming up and they're going to be looking at skills-based hiring. How do I reinvent myself? How do I reinvent my resume? So it's not that you're asking it to do it, but it's you're asking it for ideas that will then spark you to update your resume, know how to answer questions. I think that's the thing that's missing right now is that people are just going into AI and they're going, do this for me.
Yes.
Instead of using it conversationally to kind of bounce ideas off of and think about things while still keeping the human and keeping themselves present in the process.
Such a great point, because one of the things that I've started to see is people journaling with whatever mechanism they're using. So creating a cognitive behavioral like therapy type journal where they're talking to it about things they're thinking. Now, keep in mind for our audience, you still need the human guardrail on AI.
Yes.
Like if it tells you that the speed limit's not 55, it's probably not right, depending on where you live. So keep that in mind.
But so true.
I think that's really something that, as a great point. I also think where people, for some reason, they kind of forget about it is preparing for the interview, as you said. What are they going to ask me in this interview is something you can absolutely ask AI.
It's so true. Ready. I used to have a client and this was when I was recruiting. I still had my recruiter hat on and I waited until the very end of the interview and I would ask the candidate, so when you did your research, what was it about ABC company that just really got you excited for this interview? And you would be, it was shocking how many professional years of experience people would actually say to me, oh, you know what? I didn't do a ton of research. Or you could hear,
oh yeah,
they were looking up the website as we were on the phone. And I was like, come on, people. And, and I would coach them and I would say, hey, listen, we had a great interview, but if I was the hiring manager, you probably would not make it to the next round of interviews.
Here's why.
So it's such a simple step. But to your point, you can take that a step further. Now you can use AI and say, hey, I'm interviewing for this job at this company and I'm at the second round. I'm meeting with these level of people. What kind of questions should I prepare for? And if nothing else, it's going to give you some situational, star-based type of questions that you can help and prepare yourself. But if nothing else, the more you practice, the better you're going to get. And having that back and forth with AI where it's giving you some things to think about is going to help you be more and more ready for when you get to that interview.
Yeah, that's a great point. And really, I think to kind of capture that sentiment, AI is not for the first step in terms of the process of applying, where it's just the resume versus the job description. It's if you're going to use it and use it well, use it the whole way through.
Absolutely.
Have it create the stuff that's softer than your resume.
Yeah.
To help you.
So how about your thank you note, right? How about write your thank you note, because you want it to be in your word. You want it to be with your voice, right?
Yes.
But throw it into AI and say, hey, can you sharpen this up for me? Or I'm not quite sure about this third sentence. Does it sound and have it help you? Again, I feel really strongly that we have to do the work still, but AI is there to help us improve, catch something that we might have missed, add a little bit of something else that, we didn't know we needed. Give us some ideas. Just don't rely on it completely.
And we really shouldn't have typos at this point.
Oh, for God's sake.
Come on.
I know.
Come on, everybody.
I know.
Let's use that AI to make sure there's no typos in our messages.
100%.
Yeah, that's a big one. So that's good. And also making sure, because I've seen this recently, you're going back and cleaning up that thank you note so that you don't have the wrong company in there because you interviewed with multiple places at one time.
Yeah. The right
there's
person's
lots of little
name.
Things. Yep. Spelled correctly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So lots of little things. What would you say? So I want to address our friends in recruitment because I can't imagine what that's like right now for them.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that are changing, so much pressure, and it's moving so quickly that it's hard to keep up with. How do we help them? Even from a DoubleStar perspective, how do we support them so that they're not the ones getting poked in the eye all the time about, I got ghosted? But ghosting's not really happening when you've applied and never heard anything.
Right. I know.
Ghosting's happening when you've met them.
Right.
So what's your advice there?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, right? But I'm going to say you keep that human element in the process, and remember that there's somebody else on the other side of the screen or the phone or whatever, the email or whatever you're doing, right? So I think that when we have our teams, our internal teams, we really have to emphasize that candidate care is really important because it is discouraging, and there are a lot more people out there looking. They're out of work a little bit longer, right? So they're feeling that grind. A job search is like a full-time job, and they are applying to, record number amounts of jobs before they're getting interviews, and they're not hearing back, right? So there's so many simple things we can do as the actual employer to make that process a little bit better. At a bare minimum, when they apply, they should get some sort of email to say, hello, we've received your resume. We're going to take a look at it. And if you're a great fit, our recruiter's going to be in touch with you, right? Don't let people feel like they went into a black hole. And this you don't have to have a fancy ATS to do this. You can set up, if you have an inbox, you can set up an automatic reply that people go and, that they get. If someone, if you reach out to them and you promise them that you're going to have feedback for them, and listen, stuff gets delayed, hiring managers get pulled in different directions. Even if you don't have an update, give them an update to say, hey, listen, I know I promised you feedback on Tuesday. It's looking more like Thursday or Friday or whatever that may be. And then set yourself a reminder. Anyone you engage with in the interview process deserves some sort of closure. And I get it. I'm not saying that's easy right now because of everything we talked about in the beginning, right? When you've got 1,000 resumes to go through and, you've got 15 people that you have to email or call or give feedback to, some of that stuff feels like I can push that aside, but you have to remember there's a human being attached to every one of those applications, and they deserve some sort of information, some sort of closure, some sort of update or feedback. And we have to provide that to them.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do think it's a challenge. I do empathize on the recruitment side with the amount of messages that need to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And obviously there's also frustration on the recipient side of a record number of applications going in, not hearing anything positive back.
I know.
if you're unlucky number 99 of that, and they come back at you, like, and it happens. And you and I have had conversations about this outside of podcasts, where things that are crazy happen. So I think that that's important to reference. So going back, you kind of highlighted this. I'm just curious, from a I would think smaller company, mid-sized company, sort of emerging space. Is that a process that DoubleStar would employ into someone's recruiting structure?
Yeah,
the care that's there.
absolutely. It's one of the pillars. I think we built a lot of our best practices that we apply at our clients. And if you don't take care of your candidates, if you don't take care, which is then that's your brand, right?
Yep.
Recruiters are the first people sometimes that these candidates are going to interact with. And that's going to set the foundation for how they feel about that company. And so, we absolutely practice what we preach and do our very best to provide that. It is an opportunity that if there is a tool that you can use while keeping the human in there, whether maybe it's a scheduling tool that helps you, or it's a tool that helps, with responses to candidates, et cetera. I think those are the things that we would look to optimize within our clients to say, hey, what can we do to keep your recruiters moving forward, focused on the end goal of filling these jobs? Where can we take some of that burden off of them?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the conversations that I have around AI with individuals that are searching are thinking that AI is this very recent thing that just started. Right? And so I like to kind of point out, like, AI was baked in back when people were asking if you had a degree or not. Like, it wasn't the same thing, but it was certainly the same type of process of identifying candidates who made the cut, who didn't make the cut. In that case, it may have been a degree, it may be something else.
Sure.
So the scheduling piece, I mean, how that's been in place for at least 10 years.
Absolutely.
At least.
Yeah.
So these are not necessarily new things. I think they're things that are employed more frequently.
Yeah. And I think companies have an obligation to tell the candidates when AI is part of the process. I recently saw a company, they were using a scheduling tool, and it literally emails and communicates with the candidate as if it's a person, but it says, hey, I'm this company's AI tool. My name is Christine. And I'll, here's some spots and times to pick, days and times to pick. Go ahead and do that. Then they send you the email confirmation signed off as Christine. I mean, they're acting as a human, but being honest that it's AI that you're interacting with. And I think that's important that candidates know that throughout the process.
Yeah, I think that is important. And I think candidates and people in general, because we're seeing it in customer service as well, can appreciate it more if they know it's AI they're working with.
Absolutely.
Instead of being the crusty old guy like I am, where I'm like, customer service, right?
Zero.
Exactly. How many times can I press zero?
Right.
I'm going to press 1 to find somebody, then to press 0. So, that is really important in terms of that. So that's a really great highlight on the recruiting side. I think that's very helpful in terms of what's happening right now. Would you say that, I had a conversation this morning with somebody, and we were talking about, it was a very fun conversation with somebody I'm coaching. We were talking about, like, why don't we have like a pre-retirement career pivot where we're like, hey, I kind of like doing this. So I'm going to consider doing that. And to your point, talking about, we may not have the skills we're looking for each job, but we might have, or the resumes, I'll call it. We might have the skills that are here.
Sure.
That if somebody really was focused and driven to make that change, they were passionate about it, they could make the transition. What are your thoughts on, like, could that be a reality at some point based on how difficult it is to really match the right people?
I think it's going to be case specific, honestly, right? And maybe it's going to be job function specific too, depending on if there's a shortage of talent. And so companies then, if they can get exactly what they want, right? If that hiring manager can get the unicorn, right, with all 10 things, they're going to hold out for that. And so I think companies as well, until they can't, right? Until it becomes a screaming issue and there's a shortage of what they need. And then I think they could get creative. I'm not going to say that there's not forward-thinking companies out there that are already employing this and that are really capitalizing on great talent with a little bit of ramp up time, right? Because they're not going to come in and be able to jump in and hit the ground running immediately. So do I think that it's possible? Sure. I think it's possible with the right company and the right job. Do I think that it's widely deployed yet? Not yet.
No,
not yet.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that at this point.
But that would be cool, right?
Wouldn't it be cool?
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be, I mean,
get to ride off into the sunset doing something that you really are passionate about.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my wife's a teacher and I could absolutely see her at this point, maybe not this point, in a few years say, okay, I can retire from teaching. I've done my time there. This is something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
If you happen to have a library that needs some help right now, she will be available in about 5 years. But anyway, so maybe less. But I think it's important to maybe consider those types of things. It would be interesting to see resumes and the review process really push that direction. And maybe AI will do that. I know this is like something we're just talking about for the first time today, but it was just interesting.
And think about the retraining of your recruiters, right? Right now, your recruiters are trained to look at a resume, match it to a job description, keep in mind some of the bells and whistles that the hiring manager has shared as far as the team and the dynamic and the goals, some of those unforeseen things. That's what they're doing. Now you look at a resume and you're looking for skills that aren't, unless they're just not going to jump out or you're going to have to retrain your brain to be able to look at resumes and look at a candidate differently.
Yeah. So walk me through a little bit just to make sure I have a full picture here. So DoubleStar would engage at what different points in the recruitment process?
Yeah.
Like where does it fit?
So we, honestly, we fit in a bunch of different spots, right? So we have, our team consists of recruiters, research and sourcing, and then your administrators. So your onboarding administrators or your people on the front end of the process who are posting jobs and scheduling interviews. And so we can really come in and kind of plug that hole wherever you're feeling the most pressure. So sometimes we are full life cycle. And so we're coming in from the get-go. We're kicking off with hiring managers and we're extending offers and we're launching background checks and getting the candidate across the finish line. In other cases, maybe it's a pipeline thing. Maybe they need more candidates and they're not getting enough for their postings. And so we sit at the front end of the process and we're sourcing and we're pre-screening with our talent scouts and we're getting those warm, interested candidates into the hands of the recruiters. So really we're able to kind of flex in depending on where the biggest pain point is for our client.
Okay. What about internal talent pipelining? Are you involved in that too?
Internal talent pipelining, we're really more focused on external talent than internal. It's not to say that if, there's internal talent, we would include them in the process.
Got it.
And so, we would treat them, we would interview them just like that's how DoubleStar always recommends it. Like, do not have a different process for your internal people that you do for your external people. So we want to make sure that they get the same interview that everybody else would get so that there's no compliance issues on the back end.
That makes sense. That's excellent. Excellent. All right. So at this point, we've covered pretty much all of recruitment. We've covered the resume changing and all that good stuff. Got one more question for my candidates that are out there considering new roles.
Sure.
This has changed a lot and it continues to change. So are recruiters in general, are they reading cover letters?
I'm gonna be a pain in the rear end.
Yes,
I'm gonna answer it two different ways. I'm gonna say no. I really don't think that recruit, what is was it like 6 seconds, right? Like a recruiter can look at a resume and like in 6 seconds decide if you're a fit or not, right? The cover letter is going to add an extra 6. They don't have time for that, right?
Right.
However, I have worked with clients where there's somebody in leadership that is very adamant that a cover letter is important and they will not consider a candidate without one. And so if the company embraces the cover letter or a particular leader embraces the cover letter, then I would say, yes, it's still relevant. But in most cases, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if they're coming in from a referral source?
That's a great question, Kevin. You know what? I think if you're coming in from a referral source, you could give a cover letter and you could reference who the referral source is and why you're interested in this opportunity and how you'd love to talk to them about A, B, and C. I don't think that hurts at all. Even if it's an introduction on LinkedIn, you can send a quick in-mail message, or, if you are going to move on to an interview and they're sending their resume and the referral gives you permission, go right ahead. Why not? I think that's a different situation. I think if you're out there in applying to jobs, through an ATS, that's going to be a little bit different. But when you actually have that human person that you're going to be reaching out to, yeah, absolutely. Put your best foot forward with that.
Good. I like it. Okay. That's great. Anything you would like to add that you want our audience to know?
I would say that, for those people that are in the job search right now, it's a grind and it can be discouraging. And you're hearing all these things about AI and how it's filtering you out. Lean on your network, right? Lean on your network. And for those people that are employed, can keep up with your network. Don't wait to need your network, right?
Yes.
Keep your network strong while you are, gainfully employed, and so you can help other people during that time. And then, if your situation changes and you need to rely on your network and the roles reversed, then they're out there for you. So I would just say, don't be afraid to ask people for an introduction. Don't be afraid to ask people for 5 minutes to talk something over, or to ask a question, or to have them look at your resume. Most people are going to be genuinely happy to do that for you. So rely on your network, reach out for help. You're gonna get through this.
Yeah, it is. It's a matter of persistence and consistency.
It really is.
100%.
And you know what? And taking care of yourself during that time too. Make sure that you're getting out and taking a walk if you need to. Make sure that you are filling yourself with things that bring you joy during a really, sometimes challenging time in your life. So make sure, you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. Well, I think that applies during the job search. Take care of yourself so you can put your best foot forward out there.
There is a image that is used a lot in coaching for certification programs, which is the oxygen mask on a plane.
Yeah.
And it fits this perfectly, which is you can't help the people around you until you put that mask on.
That's right.
And so that's a great reminder of making sure that, you feel good through the process.
Yeah.
You may not feel good every second, but you're doing what you need to do to make sure that you will feel good, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question, which I love ending with.
Okay. Oh boy.
This is the big one. This is the unprepared big one.
Okay.
What would you say your why is?
My why. So, I joke around that there's not a lot of people that wake up and go, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a recruiter. Right. And so a lot of us fall into it somehow or the other. And when I went through that experience after graduating college and someone gave me an opportunity and they said, do you want to be a recruiter? I said, sure. But I'll be honest, I needed a job. However, when I got into it, I fell in love with that connection that you build with people, and just knowing in a very small way, you have impacted someone's life for the better, right? Whether it's, bigger salary, better career path, whatever. And knowing you had a small hand in that There's nothing better than getting that note or that message from a candidate that says, I'm so excited. I just got my dream job, or, I've been out of work for so long and now I'm getting back out there. And so that for me is my why still to this day.
I love that.
I'm a helper, I have a helping heart, and I love that part of my job. So I don't think that'll ever go away.
I love that. That's a great why. I love that so much. Good. And that's 100% true to you. I mean, that's how we've known each other for several years and worked together. And you really have been somebody who has always been willing to lead with help, I call it. So that's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Christine, thank you so much for joining us on Careering with Cameron.
My pleasure.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our show today.
Me too.
I'm sure our audience is going to get quite a bit of information from it that's going to help them as well.
Great.
Everybody out there, thanks so much for joining us on Careering with Cameron. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us 5 stars and go ahead and give us a follow as well. If you know somebody who might be interested in a job search, or bless them, a recruiter out there somewhere who's like, my job never ends and I can't get on top of it, please reach out to Christine.
Yes.
Christine, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So, obviously you can go right to our company's webpage, doublestarinc.com. Yep. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you there as well. So send me a connection request and we'll get that conversation started.
Excellent. Thanks so much, everybody.